In real life, we actually think that life is an individuation process, that every bit is separate from the other, that every subject matter of study has no way of connecting with the other. With the perspective of human sciences, is that is a myth. Everything is connected one after the other, and every subject is a science. It has a logical explanation and deduction and formula that you can use to understand human behavior, life, and human sustenance as a whole, in a holistic manner, in as far as living on this environment is concerned. There have been studies, quantum physics, that actually say this entire body that you see is not just a body. It is energy forces within a person, meaning anything, in other words, we are light. This is according to quantum physics. We are light, like light. And when you slow down light, it comes in a solid form. So, for example, if I saw something solid, like let me say a tree. If I was to, a tree is solidified light. But we see it as something solid. Light which has been slowed down is what all of us we are. So if I got your hand and put it under a microscope, it would vibrate, meaning the energy within is what would actually be vibrating. If I got this brain and put a cape on it, and I told you to think anything in your head, as you would be thinking, and we put wire connections on your head, the message and your feeling and whatever you're saying, your thoughts would leave your head as forms of light. We are in this dimension called 3D, which is perspective. We are used to having perceptions, but this is perspective. In this perspective, we cannot see gamma light. So when you put these codes and wire them to a computer, you'll see that they are moving, but as rays of light. So as the illusion is that we are this meat soup body, no, we are not. We are rays of slowed down light. And this is what we are. And there is a discovery that was made by one doctor who is called James Gates Jr. He was the advisor of Obama on technology. And he's an African American. He discovered what they call Adinkra codes. These Adinkra codes were like art paintings that had been, that you see in our batik, in our bitengi, in our clothes, you know. He discovered these as a physicist. And when he tried to look at the mathematics behind this code, he realized that these were the error clearing codes within sending information, and they were the waves and the light sounds, you know, in as far as quantum physics is concerned, behind what we call the World Wide Web today, the internet, you know, and moving from one side, they are the waves behind it. And so they were trying to understand what exactly is this, and they said that we are such an electromagnetic field. We are basically light, and as beings of light, it means that even that the things around us, let me first of all make you understand what subject matter is. Even your field of energy, your light slowed down. So if you want to kill, in fact, death even had to be an invention of how do you blow up solidified light. So you find that actually making a gun was quite an investment with an intention of really having to blow up a human being. Otherwise, you'd be dealing with a consolidated form of light that does not dissolve unless you have to break it up. And with light, it is like moving in a matrix. If some of you saw that movie, with slow down light, you can, if you had a mechanism of breaking through an object, what is inside is actually empty space, which is what light is. And this one is, the body is like on the surface. And this explains our true nature of what we are. So nothing in life and the way we see it is exactly how we perceive it. You know, what we see and what actually is are two different things. And in the actual sense, the myth we have is that we are body. No, we are shades and shades of light. This is why, and when you can tell the degree and the brightness of your light, depending on what emotion you have. If you have a low emotion, it will be dim light. If you are happy and you're in a high vibration, let me say love or being happy and excited about something, it will be high vibration. So basically what we do is vibrate with each other. And these days we have a language of how we say it. We vibe. We don't vibe. But it's actually, you're saying the truth without actually knowing it. Also, as people and as Africans or anybody in the world really, when we look at neuroscience, we have got 17 generations of memory in just one kind of, let me say like in one cell or one particle of DNA. And these 17 generations of memory mean you still feel the pain of your ancestors when they were sold. You still feel the pain of your father who was in that generation of this and generation. So you're the sum total of all those memories of the realities they had, the pains they had. And also this bring disease. There are diseases you'll feel that have no cure. And in modern science, we call them idiosyncratic diseases. Diseases that have no causes. And this is one of the causes that human science tries to look into. Okay, you have this disease, but it is actually coming from a different kind of dimension. Not from this 3D that you're used to. It is coming from the memory that was stored in your body from 17 generations before you. So you find, let me say, like even in the US, people are still feeling like slaves. But their ancestors were taken away like 17 generations ago because the memory is still there and it demands an action. And even if you gave them anything, they would still feel they are not home. They would still feel they are harassed. They would still, and even they would attract people who actually harass them by virtue of the match of the vibrational match to that they have within their memory. So these Adinkra codes helped us understand that we are actually light. And we are light waves. And these Adinkra codes were from tribes in Ghana, the Dogon tribe, you know, in Mali, Ghana, West Africa basically, and sometimes even in Tanzania. You would only see a Kitengi, you know, but you would not understand the patterns, what is there. But if I'm to ask you that let us not look at anything, because now we know without discussion that everything we perceive, we've been conditioned to see it that way. So we've been also conditioned not to see what we do not see. But because we don't see what we do not see, it doesn't mean that what we do not see does not exist. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It is just that we do not see it. And because we do not see it, we have concluded that what we do not see does not exist. So this is the illusion in as far as the question you've asked me is concerned. And the reality is, what we need to really change, our perception is very much conditioned. And what we really need is perspective. Being able to look at life, human life, sustenance, through different types of angles and dimensions so that we can fully understand. The minute we pull away, we individuate, we do not quite understand. The other issue that can elaborate this is, even if it is something like an animal, it has about 50% of the same DNA that you have. Bananas have at least 50 and sometimes over the same DNA as bananas, you know, that a human being has. And you'll find that plants, even when you come out and you go and stay in nature and with plants, you are actually having DNA's light transmission and codes at the same time, because we are light basically. And you're having transmission and you're being rewired and your cells are being regenerated by the mere fact that you're within plants. They share at least 50% of DNA. They charge you, they activate you. So when you break down a tree and you cut it down, you know, you're actually becoming less and less and less of a human being. You know, and your DNA is becoming less and less. Your chances of surviving on this planet are becoming less and less and less. So the other issue also is that the more trees you cut, you're just not cutting trees, you're cutting your own life short. You know, so everything has that light element transmission within. There is a place also I told you about, the beautiful houses we built ourselves, and they are actually graves, because the bigger they are, the more they are not eco-friendly. the more we are obstructing this light that connects us to the outside. So that means the weaker we are becoming, the more diseases we are getting. And because of that, we've even broken the chain of even the bacteria that support us, because you'll get to the point where you almost feel that if something is not transmitting, then it is light, you know. So all these are part of who we are and what we are. And the more we close ourselves in, we look at ultralight, we are interfering within our DNA. Not only is our DNA being compromised and it doesn't regenerate the cells that we actually need to be well off and to sustain our lives, our brains are actually becoming smaller and smaller, and so is our inability to think and to understand complex things. Today, people usually cannot read. You can ask someone, when was the last time you read a book? And they don't have the power to concentrate. Their brains have shrunk smaller and smaller and smaller. And yet with the manufacturing of everything, we are inhaling plastic in every form that you can think about. We are eating it, we are inhaling it. And they've also been discovering that that is not the only thing. Even our production process is also interfering within the process of our DNA. There was an experiment that was done. And the exposure of plastic onto tadpoles actually changed their sexes. The males became women. And today we have a situation in the world where we have, I talked about LGBTQs, you know, lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual. People are just confused as to what sex they are, you know, and it is coming within all this advancement and all this that we have done. So the greatest illusion of all is that the world is not what it seems. And things are not what they are, you know, and the way we perceive things is not the perspective, the true perspective and reality of life. And somehow we have to wake up and we have to get to the consciousness. And this is what it takes also to develop our own communities, to come out of poverty. This is why we see the difficult things as, the simple things as very difficult. Because with this conditioning that we have had, it is difficult for us to even get out of that cocoon and think outside the box. We are afraid that we will not do it, even the simplest and simplest of things. And above all, it does not interest us to do good, because we have been conditioned to this life of trouble all the time. We would rather stir up trouble to feel we are alive. We would rather feel pain to feel we are alive than to actually go for peaceful means, to actually do good acts. You just imagine how many people watch something like this that we are talking about. But if I was to strip naked, I would make 10K in one day. You know, by mere virtue of this doctor has stripped naked, or this lady has stripped naked. You know, this is the society in which we live. Then these are the illusions that we actually live with. The illusion that money is everything, which it is not. The illusion that the bigger houses that are not eco-friendly are actually making us live longer. No, they are actually not doing anything of the sort. The illusion that the plants are separate from us. Nothing is separate. We are all part of one energy field. And this is what I call the separation of perspective from perception. Perspective is what human science tries to do. It puts everything together. And when you look at light, what basically we are looking at is formulas, basically. So everything is mathematics around us. Everything, whether we like it or not. The way we think is mathematics, is a formula. The way we do what is mathematics is a formula. But as we look at these Dinkra codes that we are in our bitengis that we wear every day, I've been part of a study. And this study, before I even go to that study, I would ask a question, you know, that could this be, although they discovered that these were with the airwaves, that we are really behind the light and what we are, and it is the system of the internet that we are using today, the Dinkra codes which we are in Africa. What did it represent? Usually, in my view and in my understanding, is that as you are light, everything that you bring out of you is light. And it could have also been just that this that was coming out as the Dinkra codes, it wasn't a secret left there for the future generations to discover. But the light that they were, our ancestors at that time, is what they were able to draw, is what they were able to be. Because I've been part of studies, you know, on a serious note, even some people in Uganda have been part of this, and those who hear me saying it can actually relate to it. Whereby looking at what someone is dressing, in terms of what color they are wearing, because light is different shades of light. You know, at some time, I mean, color is different shades of light. And you can actually tell in what kind of mind and what kind of struggles are going to these color patterns that this person is all about as a result of having been exposed to these kinds of studies, you know, of studies of light and low vibrations and all this kind. So the Adikra codes are real. So, but I think that when our ancestors were wearing these codes, they were not keeping it as a secret for the future. No, they were expressing who they were, because even when you come out and you've dressed the way you've dressed, there are studies today that can actually show that the way you dressed is actually expressing the conditions that you are in, that you cannot lie to anybody. But we think that we are not always talking, but we are, even with what we are dressing, with the colors we are dressing in, they are reflecting the vibrations that we are, and we are speaking every day, even when we are not speaking with this audible mouth, you know. I had a friend and colleague who came to visit me last week, and he came in a shirt. It had a white elephant, and then it had a black one, the one which was white, another one a dark, then it was all in brown. Then I looked at him and I said, today you are dressed in something and it means this and this and this and this. This is your vibration and how you, and he ran out of the room and left, and he came back and said, how did you know? And I was like, these things are there. You're speaking to me without even having to open your mouth. So it is an illusion to think that we are not communicating with each other simply because we are not opening our mouths. There are several illusions around our lives. It's just like how you enter a room. Because you are an energy field, you're light. If you're feeling low, and the other people don't have strong energy that are within that room, you can make them feel sad. If you're feeling happy, they can feel the happiness vibe that is within you, and it can carry them. So this is the reality that we haven't looked at, you know, in life. And we often say we have to restrict our understanding to all these physical kinds of sciences that we see. But look, physical sciences will discover in as far as it is able to say, I don't know. Then it goes ahead. But usually a lot of studies begin with one thing in mind and end up with another. You know, meaning that nobody really knows. And in my view, when I'm looking for something, I first begin with my assumption, and then I look for evidence that shows me that this thing is connected to this, and that is connected to this, and that is what I go with. Because the reality of the world is that according to our perceptions and perspectives, when we have certain perceptions, we can always justify them. At one time, we knew the world was flat. Today, we know that it is round. You know, but it was okay when they told us that it was flat, because whether we say that certain things are possible, they are not possible, either way we are right, because we cannot see beyond what we are capable of seeing. And those that are not seeing what we are seeing, maybe they also have a different perspective of looking at things. So we need to understand life, human life sustenance, by looking at the things that really matter. And we need to come to consciousness. And it is this consciousness that will bring us to solve the problems that have plagued us as humanity for a very long time. And it is this that will also awaken us to our true being. It is this that will also help us to understand the human condition. This human condition has also been proved biologically. There is another doctor who has written a book called Freedom. He's called Griffith. I think he's from Canada, if I'm not mistaken. And this book, Freedom, talks about the human condition, and it explains exactly what I'm trying to explain to you, and the biological aspects of it, proven by biology, that this that I'm talking about is actually right. And he's not the only one, you know. There are different doctors who are with quantum physics, you know, the others are epigenetics, and others are also studying the psychology of a human being and what trauma does and all these conditions, what do they do to a person that and the environment a person grows up in. So that is where we need to wake up. Consciousness means seeing things as they are, instead of how we perceive them to be according to our condition.